All right, it's your boy Tibbs here with Tony, the one and only. We are less than 3 hours away from the 1 o'clock kickoff games, week 2, after an abysmal, awful week 1 and an even worse Thursday night game. Tony, we got
I don't know about you, man, but week 1 was full of surprises for me. I mean,
it was definitely
right
full
off
of
the
surprises.
bat. You're seeing the great, like, you see the top performances of being Alex Smith and a Sam Bradford. I mean, right off the bat, you're just going like, this is completely out of proportion here. I mean, this is
definitely out of left
most
field.
surprising week 1s that I've seen in my life. So
some of the worst offense, though, and I think what you just said, that the top quarterback performers are Sam Bradford and Alex Smith. Usually those guys are at the bottom rung of the offensive numbers. Eli Manning, not that he's, a quarterback savant like his brother by any means, but just god awful during the Sunday night game. Most of it was not his fault. Most of that had to go with the offensive line not being able to protect him. I'm looking forward to a much higher scoring, more offensively polished week than we got last week. But we didn't exactly get that on Friday night, one and only. What can you tell me about Thursday night?
I would have to say with Thursday night recap coming up with the Houston Texans defeating the Cincinnati Bengals 13-9. It was an absolute train wreck from top to bottom. I mean, Andy Dalton could not get it going. I mean, Deshaun Watson had a very solid 48-yard touchdown run, but as far as his passing, not that accurate. At that point, it was just a complete train wreck as far as Thursday night football. But that's Thursday night football in general. You're not really getting marquee matchups. I mean, the best marquee matchup you're probably going to get was the one that you got from last week with the Chiefs and the Patriots. I mean, right off the bat, that was probably the most exciting Thursday night football you're probably going to get throughout the entire season. So that's pretty much what you're going to expect. Now, with the Bengals not scoring a touchdown in now 2 games, they've yet to be able to put one in the end zone. I mean, you got to call for Marvin Lewis to be on the hot seat if he wasn't on the hot seat now. I mean, he has to be placed on the hot seat. And not only that, Andy Dalton has to be checked out as well. I mean, it was absolutely abysmal. So.
There were reports after the game that Marvin Lewis was almost facing a mutiny in the locker room. They have fired their offensive coordinator, which if you can't score a touchdown in 8 quarters of football, I think that goes without saying. They have 3 fantastic running backs. They got definitely a top 3 wide receiver in the game in A.J. Green, great tight end Tyler Eifert, completely serviceable second banana, and Brandon LaFell, who helped the Patriots to a Super Bowl. But if you can't score 1 touchdown against the Texans defense, their pass rush is where it's at, as G would say. They're dogs in the trenches. But
right.
No Brian Cushing, nobody in the defensive backfield or the secondary that really makes you concerned. It's kind of embarrassing. So I hope that they can turn it around just for the sake of some good football. But yeah, not much good coming out of Cincinnati these days. As for the Texans, Deshaun Watson looked electric on the ground, not so much in the air. 15 for 24 with 125 yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions though. But on the ground, that 49-yard touchdown run that he had was fantastic. It's definitely going to be more. It's always more interesting to see more mobile quarterbacks in the NFL. You get your Tom Brady's, your Aaron Rodgers to a lesser extent. Aaron Rodgers could run the ball, but they're pocket passers.
They're more traditional. They're more traditional quarterbacks, if you would say.
Yeah, and it's, in my opinion, it's more exciting to see someone kind of scramble around, find his open man after about 10 to 15 seconds, maybe even take it a couple yards down the field. That's more exciting, in my opinion, than just watching the quarterback sit in the back because you know where the ball's going. It's going down the field. When you have a quarterback that can run the ball, puts more pressure on the defense, which is more exciting to me.
It allows them. It has the elite defense now to be able to not only worry about the pass, you have to worry about him coming out of the backfield as well. Now you got to have somebody shadowing him as well. So.
I was at the Boston College and Notre Dame game yesterday, and Boston College did not know how to shadow a quarterback. The quarterback for Notre Dame ran for 209 yards, and 150 of those yards coming in the fourth quarter. It was pretty abysmal. But anyway, we got a full week 2 slate of games. Let's start with the 1 o'clock games, as you suggested, which was a great suggestion. Don't know why I didn't think of that, but the first game that I'm looking at just so happens to be my favorite team, the New England Patriots, coming off an abysmal showing on Thursday night against the New Orleans Saints, an equally abysmal showing on Monday night. Who do you have in this game, one and only?
I mean, at this point, I see the New England Patriots not going to 0-2. I do not see them going to 0-2 whatsoever. I just see them going back to the status quo. Brandon Cooks, I feel that he'll still have a stellar game. I feel that the trust with Tom and Brandon Cooks will finally start to click, especially knowing the fact that Brandon Cooks is going back home to New Orleans to face his old team and Drew Brees and company. Now, that would also mean, based on my bold prediction that I did back in 2 weeks ago, of saying that Drew Brees will be the MVP of the league.
Oh boy!
Pretty much contradict that statement. Now, I do feel that Drew Brees will have a pretty decent game. I just feel that his defense, just as much as it has happened over the past many years that he's been in New Orleans, will let him down again. So I do feel that Brady will pretty much dink and dunk all the way down the field with his panel of running backs and company, with Gillislee, Dion Lewis, James White. They're pretty much going to be running roughshod all over that Saints defense. So I have New England going back to 500 and writing up the ship and taking one over New Orleans.
So I feel the same way. But it does worry me just how awful the Patriots defense was after Dante Hightower left the game last Thursday. But the New Orleans offense is not the same as the Kansas City offense. They do have running backs that are very talented, Mark Ingram and a older Adrian Peterson. They don't have those quicker running backs. They do have the rookie whose name eludes me at this time. I'm having internet trouble. I tried to bring up the depth chart, but I can't get it right now. The rookie did play pretty well in the Monday night game, but I don't see the running game of the Saints giving the Patriots the same fits that the Kansas City offense did. And going on what you said, the defense will let the Saints down, and that's a real shame because Drew Brees, one of the best quarterbacks ever to play the game. I don't think it's as outlandish as others think that Drew Brees could win the MVP. He spreads the ball around. He does it with receivers that don't really have the big names, which is something that Peyton Manning wasn't able to do. Peyton Manning had, Marvin Harrison. He had Pierre Garçon. He had Reggie Wayne. Drew Brees has had great receivers in Brandon Cooks, Marquise Colston, Jimmy Graham, who's a tight end, but, he catches the ball. This year, not so much. Willie Snead's on a 3-game suspension. I can't even name their next best, or Michael Thomas, I guess.
Can't forget about Michael Thomas.
Cannot forget about Michael Thomas, but at the same time, he's not throwing to Gronk. He's not throwing to Brandon Cooks. He's not throwing to Jordy Nelson or Alshon Jeffrey. He's throwing to kind of Jims and Joes out there. So I would love to see some Drew Brees action, mostly because I have him in my fantasy league, and I'd love to see some touchdowns come Drew Brees' way. Don't think many are going to happen this week, though, because I think this defense is going to be out for blood, and I think that Brandon Cooks is going to want to show them why they should not have traded him. Anything else to say about this game? Go ahead.
Now, with the injuries with Dante Hightower, and potentially you have Devin McCourty also being questionable as well, who do you have as that now defensive leader to step up for the New England Patriots? That was Dante Hightower. I mean, You have Patrick Chung being able to step up, be the next man up to be able to just say, okay, let's get this stuff squared away here.
Patrick Chung, I really like Patrick Chung. Kyle Van Noy apparently has become more and more of a locker room presence in New England, which surprised me. Let's see. Malcolm Butler definitely, I think, could be that general of the defense. But then again, he's not really in the middle. He's playing on the outside, and actually Bill Belichick probably has him moving around. It's going to be really interesting to see if they're without Hightower and McCourty, because those are two of their defensive captains. And without those guys, you saw how ugly it got last Thursday.
I mean, what was that? 21 points within the fourth quarter for the Chiefs. Mm-hmm. I believe that's the first time that's happened in Gillette.
Yeah.
Ever in the Bill Belichick era. So that's very rare. So.
And some of our listeners might remember, and I know I keep bragging about this, but in the AFC East preview, I was very concerned about the lack of depth, especially in the front seven. And I think that showed that Thursday, and it has the potential to show today when you have Cassius Marsh, someone who came over from the Seahawks a week before the season started as your starting middle linebacker. That is not a recipe for success to have for your defense.
Absolutely not, no.
All right, now we're going a little bit west and north to the Browns at the Ravens. The Cleveland Browns actually stuck around with the Steelers. They gave up a blocked punt that was returned for a touchdown early in week one, and then the Ravens defense looked fantastic against the Bengals. But then again, the Bengals haven't scored a touchdown against the Texans either, so we're not quite sure if that's real yet. Sorry, G. What do you feel about the Browns and the Ravens today?
The Browns and the Ravens, I mean, just to be able to piggyback off that, yes, it is week one. The Ravens are not the greatest defense of all time as of right now. No. Let's get that off that right off the bat. With the Cleveland Browns and the Baltimore Ravens at home, I would probably give the slight advantage to the Ravens, especially considering the fact that their defense is still pretty stout. It is a pretty stout defense, and DeShone Kizer, he will have a decent game, but not enough to be able to overcome what the defense will end up getting for the Baltimore Ravens. So I'll check off the one for the Baltimore Ravens. In a close one, though. They'll end up winning this probably by 3 points. So
I'm going to have to agree with you. I think that the Ravens have it too. Kizer looked better than I expected against the Steelers. I think that we're going to see more of the Ravens offense if they're looking to win this week. Joe Flacco, coming off a back injury during the off season, it's going to be interesting to see how he responds against a defense that kind of surprised the Steelers. Antonio Brown, not much of a factor in that game. Le'Veon Bell, definitely not a factor in week one for the Steelers when against the Browns defense. So it's going to be interesting to see how that translates to the Ravens run game, where you don't have that Le'Veon Bell, where you don't have that Antonio Brown on the outside for the Ravens. So I think that it's going to be the Ravens. I think it's going to be a close one. That could have been just a week one anomaly that the Browns took the AFC finalists to kind of a 1 or 2 score game. But I agree with you. It's going to be the Ravens here.
With the Ravens secondary actually starting to finally step up over later years, because that's pretty much been their Achilles heel. They've had a great front seven. The only situation that they've had was based off of their secondary. They would just get picked apart here. Now, with their secondary improving, with this up-and-comer from Cleveland, Corey Coleman, do you feel that Corey Coleman would then be one of their Achilles heels in order to be able to break out from their secondary? Or do you feel that the secondary of the Ravens will just contain this kid and just pretty much leave him be on an island by himself?
So when you think of the Cleveland offense, you don't really have much outside of Corey Coleman. Duke Johnson, running back,
I got Isaiah Crowell.
Isaiah Crowell. Mm-hmm. I think that he's going to get the most attention. This is Corey Coleman's opportunity to prove he's one of the big boys, to prove that he belongs. Because they're definitely going to give him the most attention. 5 receptions, 53 yards, and a touchdown last week. I also said Antonio Brown wasn't much of a factor. That was a mistake. He had 182 yards and 11 receptions. So I'm sorry about that.
I think that was mainly for just Le'Veon. I think that was just a carryover, just saying, Le'Veon just was not there at that game. So I can understand that.
Yep, so I think they're going to try to shut down Corey Coleman. This is his chance to say, I'm the top receiver on this team. You're going to have to give me the attention if you want to stop me, but even if you try, I'm going to make it happen. I don't think he's going to have much success, but I think that he's going to have to prove it. He's going to have to prove that he belongs. What do you think?
I completely agree. I mean, right now, I do believe that the secondary of the Ravens I believe Coleman's probably going to be on either Brandon Carr or Jimmy Smith. One of them is going to be shadowing Corey Coleman. I do feel that with that matchup, I do feel that the experiences both Brandon Carr and Jimmy Smith will be too much for Corey Coleman and the rest of the wide receiver corps for the Ravens. So for the Ravens.
Now moving a little south into the east, the Bears at the Buccaneers. Buccaneers did not play a game last week due to the hurricane. Thoughts and prayers are with the South at this time. And the Bears took a game, man. They took a game, or they didn't take a win, but they took a game deep into the fourth quarter against the Super Bowl finalists, the Atlanta Falcons, kind of surprising everybody. Mike Glennon gets to go home. I don't think that this go home to Tampa where he started his career. I'm going with Tampa here. I really like Tampa coming in. I think that they've been one of the most they have the potential to be one of the most exciting teams in the NFL this year. They got a stoutish defense that's still getting their footing. They got Gerald McCoy, they got Levante David, and then they have a wide receiver core that now has Deshaun Jackson and Mike Evans. How do you feel about this game?
Right off the bat, I instantly want to just say check it right off to the Bucs. Because, number one, the fact that the Bears were in contention to be able to get that win, they actually should have won that game. They really should have. I mean, Captain Checkdown, Mr. Game Manager himself, Mr. Mike Glennon, I'm sorry, but he should not have been paid that kind of money. I mean,
that surprised everybody.
He should not even come close to having paid that kind of money. And now the fact that the Bears have to be able to suck it up and they have to just ride it out for the remainder of the season until Mitch Trubisky actually gets a shot. But as of right now, I do feel that with Mike Glennon going back to Tampa, and with Tampa, I feel that they are ready to go. They were ready to go last week against the Dolphins, but of course with the hurricane, that wasn't to be sure. But I just feel that they have way too much offensive power with Jameis Winston and Mike Evans and, of course, the running back company of Doug Martin as well. And their defense and secondary as well. You have the addition of T.J. Ward. It's just going to be too much for not only the Bears' offensive line against the Tampa Bay Bucs 7. They're just not going to be having enough to be able to take out the Buccaneers. So I'm definitely going with the Bucs in a rout, I believe, by 17 points.
Oh, wow. I like it.
They are routing.
I like it. I wouldn't be surprised. You said that Mike Glennon should not have been paid that money, and nobody would disagree with you. I think the most surprising part, though, was after they paid Mike Glennon all that money, they went out and traded up to draft a quarterback in Mitchell Trubisky that nobody was sure of. So I think that that's a controversy that you're going to see play itself out more and more over the season after Mike Glennon, through no fault of his own, because he's put into an offense that was one of the worst offenses in the league last year, taking over for Smoking Jay Cutler. If he continues to struggle, and not struggle by, a normal quarterback's ratings, but struggle on this team to get wins, I think you're going to see the fans clamoring for Mitchell Trubisky. mostly because he's the second overall pick. People want to see that guy play. But they definitely aren't going to be able to bring it against Jameis Winston and the Bucs offense and defense. I agree with you that it's going to be a rout. I like the 17-point prediction, and let's see some balls thrown to Mike Thomas because he's another one of my fantasy guys. Run game, I'm interested to see what's going to happen in this game. Tim Cohen surprised everybody by outsnapping, or not outsnapping, but outgaining Jordan Howard last week. 5 attempts, 66 yards, and then again 8 receptions, 47 yards, and a touchdown last week. That's over 100 yards from scrimmage on 13 touches and a touchdown. The kid can produce, so it's going to be interesting to see what happens with the Bears run game. And then you mentioned Doug Martin. He is unfortunately suspended, but they got Jacquizz Rodgers.
That's right.
Yeah, I know. It's always a bummer when someone can't play, but it's going to be interesting to see how Jacquizz Rodgers can kind of step into that starter role, because that's somewhere where he's kind of not familiar with. He was backing up Doug Martin last year. Before that, he was in Atlanta as kind of a scat back. So it'll be interesting to see how that develops. It's possible that with Deshaun Jackson and Mike Evans, they don't even have to run the ball. They just chuck it all day. But I think that's the storyline for this game, is how the Buccaneers run game goes and who kind of gets more touches on the ball, whether it's Jordan Howard or Tim Cohen on the Bears side of the ball.
And just to be able to kind of cap this off here, the folks in the Midwest, they are clamoring to be able to have Mitch Trubisky in there, and they are clamoring to be able to get Mike Glennon out of there now, as soon as possible. I mean, they instantly were just like, what the hell are you doing? They're like, at this point, the folks in the Midwest, they are in an uproar with their front office. I mean, the McCaskies have literally just set this team up for failure year after year after year, but that's a different story for a different day. But again, I would definitely be taking the Bucs.
All right. Now, moving to, if you ask the hot take police, who's going to win the Super Bowl this year? Now it's on the Chiefs. The Chiefs hosting the Eagles. The Eagles pulled one out against the Washington Redskins on Sunday. And we already talked about the Chiefs game. Kareem Hunt, the running back, really made a name for himself, fumbling on his first carry. And Andy Reid went right back to the kid, having a banner day for the Chiefs last week. Let me scroll up to the stats right now.
This man had 17 rushes for 148 yards, 1 touchdown with that, with 2 receiving touchdowns and 98 yards. This man had a day. And he literally could have had his will broken as soon as he had that first fumble in the first play of the game.
And really, kudos to Andy Reid for going back to him. Bill Belichick, 5 Super Bowl champion, you can't really say much wrong with him, but one thing that you can't say wrong is he doesn't always trust his rookies. If they put the ball on the ground, they're on the bench. And Andy Reid went back to him, and he didn't, all credit goes to Alex Smith as well, 368 yards and 4 touchdowns, but Kareem Hunt was really the tone setter of that Chiefs offense last week. Right now. And then the Eagles, you got Carson Wentz going into his sophomore season, 307 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 1 interception last week. You also got my man LG Blunt from the Patriots, now on the Eagles, formerly the Patriots, 14 attempts, 46 yards. And you got a receiving core that's young but getting more experience. You got Alshon Jeffrey coming over from Chicago. You got Nelson Aguilar, who really set the tone with a huge touchdown last week, opening up the first quarter. And then you also have reliable Zach Ertz, 8 receptions, 93 yards last week. This one, I think, is our most interesting game so far. It's kind of been chalk across the board with the Patriots, Ravens, and the Bucs. Chiefs at home. I follow the Chiefs on Facebook, and they had a great video earlier this week that said, some call it hostile, we call it home. Outside of Qwest Field in Seattle, I think that the Chiefs stadium is probably the loudest stadium in football. You got a young team going in, led by Carson Wentz, who I think is the quarterback of the future. I think he's going to overtake Andrew Luck for as the kind of face of youth in the NFL. So I think that the Chiefs are going to come away with this game. What do you think?
Now, just by looking at the game from last week with the Eagles and the Redskins, the one thing that I've noticed with Carson Wentz is that this man is so elusive when he is pressured in the pocket. I mean, he literally is going through and just breaking through these tackles that should be easy sacks, and he's literally just spinning through them. Has great poise in the pocket and is able to throw a dime to Nelson Aguilar for that touchdown that you mentioned. You're absolutely right. Carson Wentz is one of those next quarterbacks of the future generation to be able to look out for. I mean, with Andrew Luck and him and his injuries, it's very hard for any of us to really project Andrew Luck to be that person to be able to go out and really be that game changer now. It's really being shown off to Carson Wentz. Having said that, the Chiefs secondary as of right now, we're also losing Eric Berry to an Achilles, I believe, injury. Having that, I do see them having trouble stopping the Eagles, considering the fact that they just love to just give up yards. But they're very they're ones to not bend. They're ones to bend but don't break. So they're one of those that they love to give up the yards, but they don't really give up the amount of points that they need to. But I do feel that Philadelphia will have enough to be able to not only get up the yards that they need, but also be able to get that into the end zone. So it's going to be a close game, but I definitely see I see Philly taking it by at least probably 3.
All right, awesome. This is our first split decision. Let us know what you think on the on Facebook as well when we share this show. Who you think are going to be the teams to watch of the week? We want to engage with the fans. So anybody out there, let us know. Let us know what you're thinking. You did mention the Chiefs secondary losing Eric Berry. There's not a harder worker or better man in the NFL to have in your secondary, but they still have Marcus Peters. Marcus Peters, one of the best lockdown corners in the game right now. I think that he's going to be put on Jeffrey, but Jeffrey's such a big boy, he might give him fits. So I didn't really consider the Eric Berry loss when I made my pick, but I'm still sticking with the Chiefs. That offense is just out of this world if Kareem Hunt is rolling the same way he rolled last week. Do I think that he's going to score 3 touchdowns every week? I don't. Do I think that he's going to be elusive and he's going to be a threat not only to run the ball but catch the ball? I do. And the Eagles' defense is getting better, but I still think they're not quite there to stop a team with this many threats. Tyreek Hill, one of the fastest men in the game as well.
Yes, he is.
It's going to be interesting. Any last thoughts on this game?
I mean, just to piggyback with the fact of the Eagles defense is the Eagles front 7 with Fletcher Cox. I mean, coming off the rush, going off against Alex Smith. Let's just say that Alex Smith is going to have a pretty tough time trying to get away from Fletcher Cox. He has to be that same game manager as he was in New England. Check it down, check it down, check it down. Hopefully you can have some secondary lapses from the Eagles that you have Kareem Hunt being able to come through the seam or Tyreek Hill going off of a post. But if that's not the case and the Eagles secondary is able to lock those two down, Alex Smith is going to have a long day.
Alex Smith is definitely going to have a long day. Fletcher Cox is a huge step up from Malcolm Brown in New England. And I love Malcolm Brown, but Fletcher Cox is probably the best man in the middle of the game right now. You also have Bo Allen, rookie out of Tennessee, who I'm really excited to see come out. It's definitely going to be a different experience for Alex Smith, but I'm still leaning Chiefs. We're going to go east out to Pittsburgh, where the Steelers are hosting the Vikings after a Monday night rout. Oh man, this computer's killing me today, one and only. Of the Saints. So Steelers hosting after their beatdown, or not beatdown, they only won by less than a touchdown, of the Browns. I've been talking a lot today, one and only. I'm going to turn it over to you. Who do you like in this game?
I honestly like the Steelers. I mean, even though regardless of the fact of having a good secondary from the Vikings, Harrison Smith stepping up against the Saints last week in their Monday night matchup, I still just feel that with Martavis Bryant, Antonio Brown, I do feel that also Le'Veon Bell is going to be able to have a bounce-back game. I don't think that with what he had last week, he's not going to have this week against Minnesota's front seven. So I do feel that Le'Veon Bell is going to be able to have a pretty decent game, and I do feel that the Steelers are going to be able to take this one at home, and they'll pretty much take it within, I'd say, a touchdown.
And the Steelers' defense is a huge step up from the Saints' defense that the Vikings faced last week. Sam Bradford, not really known for his health, is already hobbled by a knee injury. He's a game-time decision, but he's been telling people he's going to play. I believe more in the Vikings defense than you do, I think, but I'm still going Steelers here. I think that Le'Veon Bell is going to have a better day. I think that last week it kind of showed that he's been holding out. A man can work out, keep his legs under him, but once you get those big bodies coming at you, it's a completely different game. Holding out of training camp hasn't really proved to help running backs in the past, where you got Chris Johnson, who followed up his 2,000-plus year with a much less stellar performance when he held out. So it's going to be interesting to see. But, Antonio Brown, Martavis Bryant on offense to complement Le'Veon Bell. Too many weapons for the Vikings to cover, in my opinion. I'm with you on this one. I think the Steelers take it. The Vikings, it's going to be interesting to see how Delvin Cook plays. I was really impressed with how he played against the Saints on Monday night, setting the Vikings rookie rushing record that he took while Adrian Peterson was on the sidelines. And that's something that we didn't really talk about during the Patriots recap. But I was surprised to see Adrian Peterson only get a handful of snaps against his old team on Monday night.
Adrian Peterson was pretty much he only had 6 carries, and 6 carries for 18 yards. I mean, did you understand the frustration on the sideline against going after Sean Payton the way that he did?
Mm-hmm. I mean, you saw him yelling.
I mean, at that point, there wasn't a single running back that combined. Like, there was only one. I believe there was, out of the combined running backs that for the Saints, there was only 36 yards as a whole, which is terrible. So, I mean, regardless of that, we're mostly focused on Minnesota and Pittsburgh here. Now, if Sam Bradford can play, if Sam Bradford is good to go, and his knee is able to hold him up for 4 quarters, and he can actually be able to get the ball down the field to Stephon Diggs, that Steelers secondary could have a problem. That's, again, if Sam Bradford can play, and if Sam Bradford can get that ball down the field. If he can't, then it's 100% going to the Steelers.
And what I'm most excited about is I'm excited to see what T.J. Watt can do. 2 sacks and an interception last week.
T.J. Watt.
I know, proving he's not just J.J.'s brother. It was impressive. And, the Vikings, they retooled their offensive line, but if Sam Bradford's already hobbled by a knee injury, he's going to be able to get after the quarterback. So I'm excited for the Steelers' defense. I was a little disappointed as a Patriots fan what they brought to the table at the AFC Championship game last year. So I think we're seeing a rebirth of the Steelers' defense right now, and I think that's what's going to win the game against Minnesota.
That works for me.
All right.
Now, I think I got one that we can be able to move on to. Let's move over to Carolina here. I feel like this one, I believe, is an absolute lock down at Bank of America Stadium. You have the Bills coming in, facing the Carolina Panthers. I don't even really have to go through any stats here. You can see the Bills. You see what they can be able to do. It's not much. I mean, that secondary is going to get torched by even a Devin Funchess at best. And Carolina is going to be able to beat them easily at home.
I definitely agree with you. LaShawn McCoy already hobbled, which is a huge bummer. He's one of my favorite running backs to watch, but more fun to watch than
there. He was their shining point against the Jets.
Definitely. 22 attempts, 110 yards. Not even mentioning his receptions that he had, which I'm working on pulling up right now. But as fun as LaShawn McCoy is to watch, it's nothing compared to Cam Newton. A wizard with the ball. He can make it happen, and he's definitely going to make it happen at home in front of his own fans. I'm excited to see Greg Olsen get involved. Definitely a top 5 tight end. Only got 3 looks last week. And I know that because I own him in fantasy football, even though it doesn't count. It's a reason to watch reason to care for any game. But Kelvin Benjamin, Devin Funchess, Greg Olsen.
That's all I gotta say.
It really is. It really is. But you got Kelvin Benjamin, Devin Funchess, Greg Olsen, and Run CMC and Connor McCaffrey. It's going to be interesting to see the Bills try, and I don't think they're going to succeed. And this is going to be the one and only week for the rest of the season that Bills fans are going to be able to say they lead the AFC East. So open and shut case, not much to say here. I really love the Panthers just as a whole. Defense is awesome. You got Luke Kuechly out of BC. Shout out to my man Jared. You also have Star Lutule in the front, Juan Short, Charles Johnson.
And Mr. Thomas Davis Sr., of course.
Mr. Thomas Davis Sr., who that story just never ceases to amaze me. He tore his knee up, I think, 3 of his first 5 seasons, and he's come back stronger each time. And now I think he's a perennial Pro Bowler. And if he can keep up his, and he's a tough guy. I don't know if you remember this, but prior to their Super Bowl against Denver, they showed his arm, which had been recently operated on. His arm looked like a football. It was basically stitched up, and he went out there and he played against the Broncos 2 years ago. Did not end well, but still he's a tough guy, and that's the kind of linebacker that you want in the middle. Or on the outside, as Thomas Davis lines up. But open and shut case, in my opinion. Panthers over the Bills, no question. Do you have anything to add on this game?
There's not even really much to be able to say about it. Bills are pretty much just going to go out of this, going out of it crying. So that's all I got for that one.
All right. Now we're moving to Indianapolis. Woof. That's all I can say about the Colts is woof. They got embarrassed in their own house by the Los Angeles Rams, 46-9. And the worst part is Todd Gurley didn't even do most of the damage. That was done by their most of the 44 was done by their defense. Scott Tolzien, 128 yards and 2 interceptions. Defensive touchdowns abound in this game. Can you even name a bright spot for the Colts right now?
Jeez. I honestly wish I could. I mean, as of right now, not even the addition of Jacoby Brissett, even with the addition of him, it's not even looking good for the Colts. I mean, and I honestly do have to be able to say this. Quarterbacks that come out of New England need to stay in New England. Okay? There's a reason why the reason why that there are quarterbacks that end up getting these lucrative contracts out of New England, and what do? They underproduce or they're mediocre at best. Look at a Brian Hoyer, look at a Matt Castle, so on and so forth. The writing's right there on the wall. But that's a different topic for a different day. And even as banged up as the Cardinals are, you have John Brown that's out. You have a David Johnson who's going to be out with a wrist injury.
It's one of my fantasy guys not happy.
They had that was one of yours as well.
Yeah, okay. Oh, quick aside, because I know that you got to go by 11:20 and it's 10:50 right now. But I drafted five running backs this year. David Johnson, Spencer Ware, and Danny Woodhead were three of them. All three of those guys are on the IR right now.
My insights are killing me right now.
I know. It's not a good time to be the Czarface Tibbs right now, which is my fantasy team name. But yeah, the Cardinals are beat up. Sorry, I cut you off. Just had to share my misery with you. Please
no,
continue.
That's quite all right. Even with Carson Palmer not playing the way that, as of right now, Carson Palmer is just on the decline. He's been on the decline since the middle of last season. Even probably back then. I think it was when he had an actual playoff game, I think 2 years back, and just shat the bed. He just could not do a thing. And now knowing the fact that he's getting back to that, even with that, it still doesn't pale in comparison to what the problem with the Colts is right now. So even though they ended up getting trounced in L.A., they're still going to get trounced at home against the Cardinals. And I feel like they'll end up losing by at least a couple of touchdowns with this. Chris Johnson's probably not going to have the best game, but I just sense that the defense of the Cardinals is going to get to the Colts enough for them to be able to cost them the Colts the game. So I do sense the Cardinals end up going into Indy and just blowing them out.
And the change for the Colts is Jacoby Brissett, as you said, but the defensive side of the ball is where you really got to like the Cardinals. They got the Honey Badger, they got Patrick Peterson, Buchanan. They got some players out there, and I don't think the Colts have the weapons to keep up with them. Even with T.Y. Hilton, Frank Gore, old man Frank Gore, by the way. It's good to see him still out there getting them checks, but at the same time, I have no doubt that the Cardinals will walk away with this game.
And also, with the Cardinals also adding back, speaking of old man Chris Johnson back to the Cardinals lineup as well. So if you have a chance to be able to pick him up, still don't. Anyway, let's go back to our next one here.
Staying in the AFC South.
Yes. You got the Titans and Jaguars?
Oh, yeah, that's what I got too.
Titans and Jaguars, that's right. Now, Titans coming off of I would have to say it's a dogfight against the Raiders. The Titans are looking to be able to bounce back off that Week 1 loss, going into Jacksonville, it was Week 1, but the Jaguars defense stepped up. They stepped up and they had a hell of a game. 10 sacks on the day for the Jacksonville Jaguars defense. Not going to lie, that is a stellar performance for that defense. With, I believe, Dante Fowler Jr. coming in and stepping up for the Jags. With them, Calais Campbell. Calais Campbell is going to be a force this year. Mark my words, Calais Campbell is going to be a force just as much as anybody else knows that.
He's such a big boy, and his presence was felt right away. And you said 10 sacks, and I'm waiting for my I'm using my work laptop, which is probably what's causing me all the issues. But I believe he had like 2.5 sacks in the first 2 drives, and really caused Tom Savage to get knocked out of that game right quick last week. But Blake Bortles doesn't really wow you on the offensive side, but Lenny Fournette coming out of LSU. What an athlete, man. I'm really excited to see more Lenny Fournette. And his name is Leonard, and I know he prefers Leonard, but I just like saying Lenny. Don't know why.
We'll stick with that for now. Why not?
Yeah, and then on the other side of the ball. Go ahead.
So the question would actually be now, since I honestly do feel that with the Texans going through what they went through with Hurricane Harvey, they played with a lot of emotion. They played with a lot of feelings. So I can understand why, if for some reason they were a little bit lulled on week 1. I get that.
Uh-huh.
Now, with week 2 coming in, and you have this Raiders defense that I would have to say is actually a little bit better than the Texans defense. Not going to lie. I would have to say with the Raiders defense, would you see Leonard Fournette producing the same way that he did against the Texans, against the Raiders in this upcoming matchup?
Do you mean the Titans?
Sorry, do you see? Yes, do you see him going against the
Titans? Yeah. So Jarrell Casey in the middle, you really can't break that. I think he's going to struggle. I think that the pressure on Fournette is really going to be dictated by how well the passing game does. And they lost Allen Robinson to an ACL tear. Lots of injuries, a lot of week 1 injuries, which you hate to see. So it's going to be on Allen Hurns. It's going to be on Allen Hurns this week. It's going to be on really old name, Aurelius Ben. Second round pick from forever ago. Had no idea he was still in the league. He's getting them snaps. You also got Mercedes Lewis, another old man who's never going to go away. Marquise Lee. It's going to be on the receivers of Jacksonville to really allow, or not to allow, but to force the Titans to respect the passing game, to open it up for Fournette. So I think that it's going to be tougher than it was last week with the Texans. I think that similar to our man Corey Coleman out in Cleveland, he's going to have to prove that he belongs. After his preseason game against the Patriots earlier this year, Fournette said that the NFL is easy. The Titans are not going to be easy for him. Zach Brown coming over from Buffalo. Actually, I might be wrong about that. Not sure if that's correct. My bad. But it's definitely not going to be a cakewalk for Fournette this year. Or this week.
Absolutely not. Do you feel that Blake Bortles will be that game manager to be able to overcome the Titans? Do you feel that Blake Bortles can get the job done?
I do not. Not
I
at all.
don't. I absolutely don't.
No.
He had a under 50% completion percentage last week, and that was against Houston. And I mean, it was pretty much just check down. He got a nice out route to Tommy Bohannon for a 1-yard touchdown, but that was pretty much it. That's all you're going to get out of Blake Bortles. I mean, that Titans front 7 is going to come after Blake Bortles, and it's going to be hard for him to be able to get that ball out. So.
Yep. In order for the Jaguars to take this game, the defense and especially the pass rush will have to be just as good, and that's going to be really difficult when you're chasing around Marcus Mariota, one of the fastest quarterbacks in the NFL. Going back to what we talked about at the beginning of the podcast with Deshaun Watson, it's always interesting to see a mobile quarterback. I'm really glad Marcus Mariota is finally healthy. It's going to be really difficult for the Jaguars to contain not only the air attack with Delaney Walker, Rashard Matthews, Corey Davis, but also the ground game with Marcus Mariota as a threat to always run the ball. Get DeMarco Murray coming off a banner year last year that I don't think many people suspected after such a subpar performance in Philadelphia the year prior.
But that's why I picked him, because that offensive line was stellar. That Titans offensive line has got to be one of the best in football. One of. I'd have to say the Dallas Cowboys pretty much have an edge over them as far as an offensive line, because, I mean, when they have somebody go down, they just pick right back up and just follow the status quo. But I do feel that the Titans are sticking right up behind them.
So are we both going with the Titans in this matchup?
I'm going with the Titans here. I'd have to say the Titans will go into Jacksonville, and they'll get the job done.
I'm predicting a big DeMarco Murray day. I think that he's gonna really set the tone in the trenches. He's really gonna make it difficult for the defense to want to tackle him because he's such a big boy. Moving to the 4:00 games, we're going out west to the Los Angeles Superchargers, hosting the Miami Dolphins, playing their first game after. I know, right?
That hurts saying that. The Los Angeles. Los Angeles Superchargers. That's
well,
team, right?
Trust me, the next game we talk about is going to be even worse. But that's a topic for another day. I'm not a fan of franchises being able to move. But Phillip Rivers staged a valiant effort on Monday night, but not able to come up with the win after the kick was blocked to give the Broncos the win. I don't see Smokin' Jay Cutler really making that much of an impact with Miami. The man was retired. The man was headed to the booth, and then all of a sudden he decides that he's going to play some football to keep getting them checks for the Dolphins. I don't think he's committed to football, just from, his performances in the past, what he's shown in the past. But then again, those receivers in Miami, you got speedy guys in Kenny Stills, Jarvis Landry, Devontae Parker. Chargers defense, you got Joey Bosa. Not many other names that really jump out to you besides Joey Bosa. This is a pretty even matchup if Cutler plays well-ish. You got Jay Ajayi, great man running out of the backfield for the Dolphins. You also got Melvin Gordon, who had a breakout season last year and continued his threats not only on the ground but through the air last Monday night. This is a toss-up, in my opinion. What do you think?
I honestly feel that if Phillip Rivers has the same game that he did last Monday, where he started off very, very late. He didn't start picking it up until the fourth quarter, and I do feel that if that Miami offense starts picking it up really fast, because believe me, they most likely will with the speediness of the Jay Ajayi, the Devontae Parkers, and the Jarvis Landrys, you're going to have some trouble. So I would have to say that Anthony Lynn, the rookie coach for the Chargers, is going to have his hands full unless he has his offense pick it up right from the jump. They need to get it going. Phillip Rivers needs to have more than just what he had in the fourth quarter. I mean, what they could be able to do with their passing and their spread offense, it's wonderful in regards to what type of defense that the Miami Dolphins have. They're mostly set up in a zone defense, and with the offense that the Chargers can be able to produce with the Melvin Gordon in the backfield, with the Travis Benjamin being able to cut routes so that you can have a safety going after him, and then just having the corner having him be that person to have him go after. It's going to cause confusion for the Miami secondary. However, if they start off late, it's going to be too little, too late for the Chargers. So I do see the Dolphins starting off pretty early, because I just feel like they're just going to get the ball and start going right off the bat, and I just feel that it just won't be enough for the Chargers. So I just sense the Dolphins going in for the win.
So I'm going with the Dolphins as well. One thing that you didn't mention is Keenan Allen, finally healthy.
That's right.
Healthier. It's just the Dolphins have too many weapons. Not to mention Ndamukong Suh and Cameron Wake on the front line on the defense, creating havoc. Chargers aren't really known well for their secondary, and that showed on Monday night. I'm sorry, secondary. I meant offensive line, and that showed on Monday night. And I think that the Dolphins are going to take advantage. Chargers favored by 3.5, but I think that the Dolphins definitely take this one.
Now, don't sleep on that Chargers front seven as well, because you got Jatavis Brown that's down there too, and he had a stellar game against the Broncos on Monday night with about 14 tackles and 11 of them being solos. And if Melvin Ingram can actually be able to get past that offensive line and be able to get to Jay Cutler, they're going to have some problems. But I just feel that Miami's offense would be too much for that Chargers defense. So.
All right, and also playing at home, something that I hate saying, especially because I think that this team was the perfect team for this for their former home. You get the Las Vegas Raiders, soon to be, against the New York Jets.
Oh, man, that hurts.
I don't think they should be able to take the Raider name. I think they should have to rename it, in my opinion. I think that the Raiders should stay in the state of California. I think that they belong in Oakland. I think it's a travesty that Mark Davis is moving them to save a couple bucks to Las Vegas. For a city that's full of tourists, basically. You've got one of the toughest teams with one of the best uniforms in the NFL, in my opinion, the silver and black, going into the desert. I'm not a fan. Pirates can't live in the desert, Tony. One and only.
No, they can't.
They can't. They need the water. They need the Oakland air.
That's right.
But anyway, that's a topic for another day. Raiders going against the abysmal New York Jets.
Hence the reason why we're talking about this instead of the actual game. Do we all know what the heck's going to happen here? Do we all know what's going to happen here? I mean, come on.
Raiders are going to crush them. Yep.
That's it.
Not even going to be close. Marshawn Lynch, I think, is going to have some fun. The Jets' strength still is on the defensive side of the ball, but Marshawn Lynch, such a bruiser, such a man in the trenches that I really don't think that the Jets are going to want to tackle him after the third quarter, and I think he's really going to eat up them yards. On offense,
just even to be able to piggyback on the offense for sorry to cut you off there, and just to be able to piggyback on the offense, you have, of course, the man, Mr. DC, coming through, and he's pretty much going to have fun with that Jet secondary. I mean, it's going to be it's going to be an absolute cakewalk for Derek Carr to be able to he can just be able to lay up these balls to Amari Cooper, Michael Crabtree, and company.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they're just going to have a lot of fun with this one. So I don't sense this one being a dogfight at all.
Nope. We can pretty much glaze over this one. Is there anything else that you want to say? Khalil Mack. What do you think the over-under for Khalil Mack's sacks are against the Jets? I'm going to say 3.
Yeah, I'm going to go, I'd say the over-under. I'll take the over. I'll go over.
Yeah.
He's going to have a good game. I see him going for about 4 sacks over him.
All right, I can see that. Now we're going to move a little west to the northwest. The 2 defeated teams in the NFL. No victories for the 49ers and the Seahawks in the NFC West matchup. Much of the same as the last game. I think the Seahawks are going to be very angry that they lost the game against Green Bay. Jeremy Lane tossed out after a phantom punch was thrown.
Right.
They are going to be angry, and the last thing that you want to deal with is an angry Seattle Seahawks defense. So I think open and shut case, in my opinion, for the Seahawks for a win. Do you agree?
I do, but there's a lot of things that need to be able to step up. That running game, they need to be able to step up. Chris Carson, Eddie Lacy, C.J. Forsythe, they only combined it for 53 yards against Green Bay last week. They definitely need to be able to step up. Russell Wilson, 14-27 for 158. It wasn't really a good day for Russell last week against the Packers. But with going against the 49ers, I see Russell Wilson and company bouncing back and being able to take them out at Quest Field at a rout. So.
Yeah, and the thing that really needs to improve for Seattle, and I think it's lucky for them that they're playing San Francisco, is their offensive line. This seems to be the word of the day for me, but abysmal, I think, is the only way to describe them. Russell Wilson, very mobile quarterback, but he needs time, basically. That's all I can say. The man needs more than 3 seconds to throw the ball, in my opinion. And in some cases, the offensive line is not giving it to him.
My question would be,
go ahead.
How long, I do apologize, how long do you feel that they're going to, now I'm talking about San Francisco here, how long do you feel that they're going to hold off with Brian Hoyer, knowing that they have somebody in the back waiting to be able to play with C.J. Beathard? How long do they stick with Brian Hoyer for this?
I don't think very long. I think you see him by week 6.
Week 6?
Week 6, because the thing with the young bucks getting up to play is you don't want to throw them into the fire right away when the offensive line and the offense doesn't really have a groove yet, because you don't want them to get crushed, especially against this team. You got Sheldon Richardson, Cliff Averill, Michael Bennett, Bobby Wagner, and not that I want Brian Hoyer to get crushed at all, but
right.
You definitely don't want to throw a rookie into his first couple starts, or his first starts against the Seattle Seahawks defense at home. I think you want to give the offense a little time to gel together so that when it's time for him to take over, he at least has an experienced core around him that can give him the targets that they need. I get a good over and under for you right here.
Okay.
200 yards of total offense for the 49ers.
You know what? I'm still going to go over because, I mean, even with Brian Hoyer only having not really producing that well with as far as touchdowns, because he literally lost a fumble and he had an interception, he still ended up having 193 yards in the air. Now, if Carlos Hyde can actually be able to produce on the Browns, I mean, he only got 45 yards on 9 carries, they'll definitely get over 200 yards. But will it be enough? Absolutely not. So I'll definitely go with you on that.
All right. We've got 4 games left in a little over 7 minutes, so I'm sorry that these teams aren't getting the respect they deserve. Washington hosting the Rams. Rams were kind of the surprise victory last week, and the Washington football team was kind of the surprise defeat. I'm going Washington in this game. I think that Kirk Cousins, you like that, kind of comes back against this Rams defense, which is the definition of stout, in my opinion. Aaron Donald's going to get back on the field. It's going to be difficult, but I think that the Washington team takes this one. What do you think?
I'm actually going the opposite way here. I feel that with Todd Gurley in the backfield, I mean, Jared Goff, I do feel that he is starting to turn into more of what he should have been as an actual quarterback. I mean, of course, last week, it's only week 1, but I do feel that he will actually carry that forward. I think that he'll get some good connections with Sammy Watkins, and I do feel that the Rams will end up taking this one over the Redskins.
So the Sammy Watkins connection really helps. I think that the Bills, they didn't have to give up on him, but I think it was a great trade for the Rams. I think that that's really going to help Jared Goff have that security blanket if he can stay healthy. Then you also got Todd Gurley, but at the same time, Kirk Cousins, Terrell Pryor, Jordan Reed. It's going to be close. I'm kind of regretting it, but I'm still going Washington. Moving a little west, we get the Denver Broncos and the Dallas Cowboys. One and only, what do you have to say about this game?
Honestly, this is actually this one actually kind of hurts for me because I have friends on both sides of this situation. One huge Broncos fan, one huge Cowboys fan here. Now, as far as offenses, Cowboys takes over the Broncos 100%. As far as defenses, I actually give that to the Broncos, even with the trade of T.J. Ward going to the Bucs. I still feel that it's going to come down to who has a better game management of this game. Does Jason Garrett have enough strategical mindset to be able to take out an up-and-coming rookie coach in Vance Joseph in Mile High Stadium? And to me, the answer is absolutely. I do. I feel that they will have enough to be able to take out the Broncos at Mile High Stadium, and I do feel that it's going to be a very close game, and it'll probably go down to the final play.
I agree with you. I think that the Cowboys are going to take this one. You just can't outdo the triplets, the new triplets, that is, of Dak, Zeke, and Dez. The Broncos' offense isn't there yet, and it stinks because, they tried really, really, really hard to give that starting quarterback job to Shaw, but Trevor Siemian took it, and I don't think that he's the guy to really lead this team to a playoff berth. So I'm going Cowboys as well. Any last thoughts about this game before we move to the NFC Championship rematch?
I just have one. It's probably going to be a Dez Bryant versus Aqib Talib. If Dez Bryant does not produce, then the Cowboys have some explaining to do, and they need to figure out what they're going to do with him because, not going to lie, Dez Bryant has to show up.
How about that Cole Beasley catch from last week, too?
Oh, my God. That was incredible, man.
I know. It's good football going to be played in this game. I'm really hoping this is the game of the week. I haven't checked yet, but I hope this is on national TV. Moving out down south, the Super Bowl finalists, Atlanta Falcons, are opening their new stadium, hosting the Green Bay Packers. What are your thoughts?
I honestly feel that Green Bay wants to go into Atlanta and just cause a huge pity party in their new stadium, but I don't see that happening. I feel that Atlanta is going to surge forward with this, with Matt Ryan, that great running back duo of Devontae Coleman and Freeman. It's going to be hard for the Packers to be able to overcome the Falcons. Especially with their defense, especially with Atlanta's defense coming in to be able to go after Aaron Rodgers. So I'm going to say that the Falcons will step up, and just like they did in the NFC Championship game, they're going to defeat the Green Bay Packers at home.
So I want to agree with you. I love some Matty Ice at Boston College, Eagles pride, but at the same time, they had trouble beating the Bears. Man, and I can't get over that. The Packers took a tough game against the Seahawks. I'm gonna have to go Packers in this game. Aaron Rodgers and Jordy Nelson, I think, are gonna own this game. And it's gonna be up to the defense. If the Falcons are gonna win this game, it's obvious that they're gonna be able to produce on offense. If they're gonna be able to stop the Pack on defense, that's a real question here.
Look out for Mike Daniels as well, also on that defense. I mean, he's going to be a terror against that Atlanta offensive line. So if there's going to be a way for the Green Bay Packers to be able to win, he's going to be your guy.
Now, 30 seconds before you said you had to go, and I promised all the listeners out there we're going to get better at this structure so that we can spend more time on the more interesting games. We kind of glossed over the two most exciting ones for Cowboys, Broncos, and Packers, Falcons. Lions and Giants. The Lions played pretty much as well as you could expect against the Arizona Cardinals. The Giants, pretty much the opposite. Their offense looked god-awful on Sunday night, and it's usually a game that everybody looks forward to. Dallas Cowboys at the Giants, but it was kind of the opposite. Not anything to write home about, but at the same time, Giants at home against a Lions team that's still coached by Jim Caldwell. I don't really have faith in him, so I'm going Giants here. What do you think?
I honestly wish that I could be able to do that, but I have to say I'm going to have to go with the Lions here. I mean, for some reason, with Odell Beckham out, they don't have an offense.
I know.
No offense to be able to show for. Where the heck is Where the hell is Paul Perkins? He had 7 carries for 16 yards. Orleans Dorquois only had 3 carries for 14 yards. Nothing. Roger Lewis, 54 yards. Nothing. The best thing you possibly could be able to have out of the backfield, you had Shane Vereen coming out with 51 yards. But that was next to nothing there. I mean, the best opportunities that they're going to be able to have to go against the Lions, they want to be able to have their front 7 being able to take out the Lions offensively. But I don't see that happening. I feel that Matthew Stafford's going to have a heck of a game. He's going to be able to throw it anywhere and all over the place. I mean, you're going to have probably Marvin Lewis on Dominic Rodgers-Cromartie. But other than that, you have, I believe, someone on you still have Golden Tate. You still have, I'm trying to get this off the top of my head here, but I mean,
Marvin Jones.
Yeah, Marvin Jones, Kenny Galladay. I mean, that man had a
day last week.
A hell of a day for.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's just too much offense to be able to overcome, especially when the Giants just can't be able to produce on offense themselves. So I'm definitely going with the Lions here. They'll probably win by at least 2 touchdowns.
Mm-hmm. And it's going to see how the running game plays against the Detroit running game. Amir Abdullah, not really impressive week 1, 15 carries, 30 yards. He was better. Not really. I was going to say he was better through the air, but he wasn't. Eric Ebron, the tight end. It's going to be interesting to see what he can do this week. And in the Giants' offense, with Odell Beckham Jr. I almost said ODB. With Odell Beckham Jr. out, that would be a very different. Saturday Night Live has to do something with that. It's a very, very different offense. Brandon Marshall was thought to be the best number 2 man in the league. Really did not show a complete non-factor last week. I'm still going Giants just because I got to feel that they're going to rebound. Odell Beckham Jr. Says he has a good chance of playing Monday night, but at the same time, I think
this man was saying he had a high ankle sprain. And they were mentioning that it could be a possibility he may be out for 6 to 8 weeks. So it's so up in the air with this kid. I mean, I can't really tell whether or not he will be playing, he won't be playing, but as of right now, I've been hearing that he's going to be sidelined 6 to 8 weeks. But you can't really even tell with it.
That would be bad news for the New York Football Giants if that's the case. I want to believe. For my Giants fan friends out there that the Giants are gonna take it, but you really made a compelling case for the Lions right now. Ziggy Ansah coming off the edge is really going to create havoc for this subpar offensive line. So I don't want to flip flop, but I am leaning more towards Lions. I'm still going with the Giants just because I got to stick to my guns, but Detroit is really going to give them a game. It's going to be an interesting game to watch, to say the least.
Come on, Tibbs. Come on over to the dark side. Come on. You know you want to.
Lions, lock it in. Lions.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
There you go. There you go. The great debater. One and only. There you go. Any final week 2 thoughts? We're about an hour and a half away from kickoffs from the 1 o'clock game. I'm feeling it. I'm looking forward to watching some football all day. I can hear my fiance in the other room rolling her eyes already. Too bad. Football Sunday in September, baby. We got week 2 coming on.
You got to expect this. This is probably going to be one of the best seasons to be able to one of the best seasons in this generation from now. I do feel it because you're going to see a changing of the guard here. I feel that this
took the words out of my mouth.
Exactly. So, I mean, I'm excited. I can't wait. I mean, this is what I got into this for. I mean, pro football is my passion with this. I mean, it's so much fun to be able to cover it. I mean, I seriously can't wait for it.
It's going to be good. It's going to be good. All right, one and only. I'll talk to you next week. We're going to try to record this earlier so we can also do a week 2 recap. Hopefully G can join us again next time along with some of our other friends. But to all of you out there listening, make sure you like the Facebook page. Download us on SoundCloud or any of the other platforms that we're available at. Also on YouTube. I wish I had them all off the top of my head. This computer.
Oh, you got Spreaker. You got Spreaker. Oh yeah. I mean, and do you have any anything you want to be able to say as well?
Not particularly. I think that this is going to be, we're going to see a much more gelling offenses from all sides of the ball. The game to watch, in my opinion, is going to be Titans, Jaguars, and of course, Broncos, Cowboys, Packers, Falcons, and Lions, Giants. I think this is the perfect format for the game. You know, me and you and I in the Boston area, we're going to be watching the Patriots because that's going to be the game that's on TV. Because I believe, of course. But you know, you get the Cowboys, Broncos at 4:25, Packers at 8:30, then Lions, Giants Monday night. It's definitely going to be a fun week of football.
Absolutely.
All right, my man. So we will speak with all of you fans next week. Let us know on the Facebook page what you think. And other than that, let's hear them horns. Week 2, baby. Here we go.
We out of here.
Peace.